Hello. So, right off the bat, I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition 2014 rules, because that's the ones that I'm most familiar with. And the kind of design exercise we're going to go about today is how simple, how much can we reduce the rules of D&D 5e without it losing its soul or, with while still maintaining the class identities of the 12 base classes. Didn't include Artificer because it would mostly just complicate things. Now, we are going to make basically a super minimalist version of D&D 5e, and the challenge, the design challenge is, now since D&D, especially D&D 5e, is a lot of the rules are mostly just about combat. Most of the rules are about combat, and that's what most people do. That's what it's going to focus on. And since most of the class features are related to combat anyways, that works just fine for this exercise. So the challenge is we take each class and we have to keep just one feature or one rule about that class. And then the question later on will be, would this class still feel like, a barbarian, a bard, a cleric, and so on. So it has to be really simple. The simpler the better, and the most straightforward, and it has to be as evocative as possible while still maintaining this restriction. So let's get straight into barbarian. Now, what single feature could we keep from the barbarian? Obviously, you think barbarian, you think rage, maybe you think cleave damage, things like that. So what are we going to keep? The question would be, do we keep... So if we keep rage, what is rage all about? You could think, oh, it's about the +2 damage. Fundamentally, conceptually, I don't think so. You could say resistance to physical. Physical just means the bludgeoning, slashing, piercing. Isn't physical damage. So maybe that would be it. We're going to keep that for now and see. Maybe we'll circle back to it later. Now, for the bard, obviously, you think bard, you don't think spellcasting, you think bardic inspiration. Now, in essence, what is bardic inspiration? You get to a d20 roll, you get to add a d6, d8, d10, so on. D&D 5e has a mechanical advantage, and this allows it to stack with advantage. However, if we're trying to really go the most minimalist route, there's actually already a thing in the game which is called the help action. There is already a feat that allows you to help at a distance and so on. But I think since this is super minimalist, maybe there's not even going to be feats in this super minimalist version. So we'll just allow them to do help as bonus action, since Bardic Inspiration is a bonus action. But we don't want it to be, so broken so that it out of combat is, so within combat is like 4 attack rolls. 4 attack rolls. Let's say, or does the base version for saving throws? I forgot. Or let's say all saving throws. At range. So there you go. So then they can just do that. And it will give advantage, which is more or less the same as if you roll a d8 anyways. Oh, cleric. That's a bit of a tricky one, so we'll get back on that one. Druid. Druid, straightforward. You think druid, you think nature spells. Although one of the cornerstone features is wild shape, so how about we just let them keep wild shape? So they get to turn into these other animals. Whether it's the 2014 or 2024 rules, it works the same. Like you just take on the stats of another creature, but probably without the hit points. I like what they did in the 2024 thing. Fighter. That's a tricky one. What do fighters do? All they do is attack. So maybe they get to keep extra attack. We'll get back to that. Monk. Monk, you could be dodge as a bonus action. And what else is very monkey? Because dash, probably more rogue. So dodge and dodge or punch as a bonus action. There you go. So they have to choose. It's kind of like Flurry of Blows. Flurry of Blows, very iconic. So Flurry of Blows does 2, but this would just do 1. But you know, it is what it is. So dodge or punch as a bonus action. Paladin, probably smite. Let's put it temporarily here. Smite, question mark. And Ranger, animal companion, easy one, animal companion. Everybody loves that. So you just have an animal companion. We'll see what that exactly means for the rules. Rogues, more like the monk, I think. So it could be dash, hide. So just cunning action, dash, hide, disengage, disengage as bonus action. Okay, there we go. Dash, hide, disengage as bonus action. Pretty simple. And now, sorcerer, warlock, and wizard. So since the rules are so simple, hard to differentiate them, or just put them all together. And the point is, if it's so minimalist, there's not even spell slots, they're not even spells. How can they? What would be? So I thought about maybe they are allowed to attune to staves, wands, and other magical implements. The reason being, obviously, that would mean by deduction that the other classes will not be able to attune to those. Still can attune to magical items like armor and so on, but not to these items which give access to spells. So instead of having a spellcasting feature, since this is super minimalist, they just have this one thing where they can attune to these items that they find throughout the game. All right, let us go back to the ones we've left empty. Now, we'd want to think about, so if Paladin has Smite, I feel like Cleric could be something like, I know might be a bit confusing. What's going on here? All right, there we go. Lay on hands. Yes. Okay. It is a paladin thing, but since paladin only gets smite, actually cleric is the whole healer to lay on hands. So you get the lay on hands, the paladin gets the smite, and everybody's happy. There you go. How does it work if they are? What's going on with the camera? Oh. So there are no spell slots. So how many times can you smite a day? I mean, you can determine. Or it can be, is it once per round? We'll have to think about that. Fighter, what do fighters get? So fighters notoriously have no features whatsoever. If you look at their feature spread in the 5e20, at least 2014 rules. So they've got extra attack, action surge, and second wind. Now, which one do you want to keep? Second wind, doesn't feel as, conceptually impactful. Now we have extra attack and action surge. I'm gonna put action surge for now. However, I'm not really happy because action surge, that could be any class, really. Any class could have action surge. It doesn't feel that special. Like if you feel, oh, you have a class that can do 2 actions, that almost feels a little bit more roguey to me than fightery. So could it be something related to weapons? Like how many weapons they can use, all the weapons. So I will say, put a question mark there. Now, maybe in the comments, you can tell me what is like a super simple feature that could make the fighter feel like a fighter. All right. So we've got this whole thing, and we've got all these features. We've turned 5e, at least the combat features for every class, into one single thing. All right. Well, if you would have done things differently or put a different feature somewhere else, let me know and in the comments. And maybe there will be a second part to this video where we turn this minimalist D&D into something real, perhaps.